All right. Well, we are back at it, JT. Got another podcast going on. A couple, I guess, I don't know, maybe a year ago, maybe a little bit longer than that, we did one about kayaks specifically for big and tall or both. And I think it's a good time to revisit this. Got a lot of new kayaks on the market this year. So we'll go through those other ones that we covered before. And then let's talk about some new stuff and get into it. JT, what's up, man? How are you, man?
Yeah, good. I'm excited
Good.
to do
You
this one too. This was one of our better ones from like a year and a half ago, or like you said, whenever it was. But it's one of our most viewed. But I was kind of looking back on it and how quickly things get outdated. So a lot of our content in the first part of 2026 might be just honestly revisiting topics. Like our last video was revisiting fish finders because now we carry more and there's just more known about a lot of the forward facing stuff. So we redid that one. So check that episode out. But we're going to jump into the best kayaks for the big and tall angler just because there's so many more like good options now available. But if you want, we do a quick recap of our favorites from our first episode that are still tried and true.
Yeah, but we'll make sure and link the that video in the description below. That we can go back and check that out, and then you can after watch this one or before or whatever. But yeah, let's talk about something we talked about last time. Jackson Big Rig. They got rid of it. They brought it back, so they are still making it again. That's a really good boat. Another boat from them as well, which we don't have on our list, but that Blue Sky Boatworks. That's a great catamaran style boat. Both of those are going to be from Jackson. Really cool platforms. NuCanoe Unlimited, Old Town EPDL, whether it's that big water version, and then the Hobie Pro Angler. We talked about those pretty in depth. Of course, I'm a big Hobie fan and a Hobie Pro Angler, but all four of those kayaks at the time were kind of like that bread and butter for the big and the tall, making sure it's got weight capacity, stability, and all that for those individuals.
Yeah, so if you want, we won't go through a bunch of those. We're going to just focus this episode on kind of some of the new additions. So check out the description below and just check out that other video because everything we talked about in that one is still relevant today. So check that one out. We'll talk about those ones that he just listed in more detail in our first video. But let's just jump right into it.
Okay.
One that we didn't have last go around when we did this video, and now is like, let's talk about the Bonafide XTR130.
Yeah, man, great platform. Definitely pushing that boundaries of kayak versus boat, but really cool platform. It's got a nice 360 seat that they've added to it, millennial seat, just like the NuCanoes and some of the other brands are using. But huge front deck, front platform gives you the option of being up there and standing up and fishing from it. But the stability is crazy. It's a really good platform overall. I think the biggest downside is it's a big platform. Like I don't see anybody throwing this to the back of the truck on a regular basis, unless they're kind of super simple and whatnot. But this thing can definitely be rigged to the gills if you'd like.
Yeah, it's heavy, and this is definitely. I mean, almost all these kayaks we talk about are going to be ones where you're probably not throwing going. You're not going to car top them. You maybe could if you had two people to do it, but no, that's a good point. We kind of glossed over. We'll come back to it with the pros and cons on what you should look for in a kayak as a big and tall angler. Let's just. That was my bad. I jumped the gun. I got too excited about kayaks. We'll come back to that. So wait till the end of the episode after we go through these, and we'll just talk about some of the features to look for. But yes, no, you're gonna have to trailer a lot of these kayaks. So because
Yeah.
this one, like I said, quick specs on it: 12 foot 7 inches, 40 inches wide, and the fully rigged weight is usually like when you add your seat and all that, 170 pounds. And even an 80-pound kayak is sometimes hard to move because they're just awkward shapes and awkward places to grab. So a 170-pound kayak is going to be pretty hard to move off land without a trailer.
On the flip side, the capacity there, 730 pounds. So, like I said, you can really load this up. They do offer a tandem option as well. So you can actually add a secondary seat to this. So you could run it as a tandem, if you're going out with family or friends or you and your buddy or whatever. So there's definitely some upsides to that. But again, this is definitely going to be one of those big, stable, platforms.
Yep. Probably not paddling it, right?
Probably not efficiently. I mean, it,
Okay.
it would be if you're paddling this thing and moving it, you're yoked and set up. So, but no, definitely one of those things you gotta consider too is like this one and a couple others. You're gonna add a motor to this, whether it's rear mounted, front mounted. There's tons of options there, and it's definitely capable of taking dual motors for that point too. So you could definitely go crazy as you want.
And didn't you recently add one that had like, basically a 70-inch plasma screen or plasma? Well, that's a throwback. Just
Yeah,
a giant screen, right? I remember you telling me that
yeah. We
this is
rigged
a
up
kayak you
one.
can just rigged out crazy.
Yeah, we did actually a 16-inch graph on there, a Garmin, which is kind of crazy. We had to really find a different mount than your traditional mount because that unit's so heavy. But yeah, the guy he was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it once, I'm gonna do it right, and I want to, spend a lot of money, and so we did it, and it rigged up really well. It was really clean. Um, did the Garmin force current on it, which is really cool with the foot pedals, foot control, and all that, and also remote control. And but we did a bunch of lights, a bunch of other stuff, but it was definitely rigged out to the gills.
Yeah, this is one of those platforms where if it's almost reminds me of like the Field of Dreams. If you can dream it, like
You
if you
build it, they
build
will
it,
come.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Like
yeah,
whatever you can think of to do, you can do to this platform.
yeah,
So yeah, as a bigger and taller angler, you're gonna have so much cockpit space. You can get up the 360 swivel seat that's elevated, makes it easier to stand, and then you can legitimately move around this one like you would move around in a boat and feel
for
completely
sure.
stable.
For sure. And I'm actually gonna let's transition to our next one. I'm gonna skip one on your list. I'm gonna switch down to the Tactical Pro, the 128, because I think that is very similar to the XTR as far as a big platform that you're probably gonna want to put a motor on. One thing I do like is it's gonna come with the bracketry you need, the cable, the wiring's already set up. It comes with a lift mechanism for the motor as well. So that's really nice because a lot of that stuff's already integrated, so you don't have to think about that. Back behind the seat in the tank is there's actually a battery box section that'll actually hold that battery in there too. But this would be that very similar platform to that XTR. Bonafide is a good, really good brand. Wilderness is still a solid brand. I don't think the fit and finish is as good, but still, it's whatever speaks to you. If this is makes more sense to you, then go for it. You're gonna have a little bit more weight capacity on this. It being at 800 pounds, that's kind of a plus. You get the seat that moves forward and backwards, and I believe I'm almost positive it's a 360 seat as well. So you're getting a lot of those same features. But again, this one's nice because it's already set up, ready for a motor. You're just having to add some minimal stuff as far as like a quick release and a motor and a battery, where everything else is rigged up and ready for you.
Yep. And then I would say one thing that's different, single passenger or angler, like solo. So this one can't really be converted quite as much, but pretty on par with the Wilderness XDR, correct? A big
Yep.
boat,
Yeah.
hard to move off land, but
Yeah, for sure.
no concerns for
Definitely.
a bigger and taller angler. You're gonna have more than enough weight capacity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, great platform. So those two I would say were most similar, more interchangeable. And that's why I know we got a list here, but I kind of skipped over just to kind of apple to apples.
Yep.
Um, a new boat too as well. That's going to be very similar to these two. Is that new NuCanoe Unlimited MAX, the U Max. This to me is going to be a pretty cool platform. Um, and again, this is going to be one that it's not going to come as a pedal drive. It's not going to be one that I would recommend paddling just like these other two. But this is a really cool boat. We actually have one here in the shop that I'm already rigging up with a motor. We're doing his fish finders, live scope, doing some decking kit, some lights, some yak power stuff. But this is one that's really changing the game. I think NuCanoe has really done a good job as far as making their accessories, their products all plug and play, bolt on. It's tough to beat that. If you want to put a motor in the back, the front, if you want to do a bow, a full bow mount, whether you want to do like a transom mount with a tiller handle, they've got so many options for this kayak. And again, you're up there at that weight capacity of 750 pounds. You get the 360 seats. As you saw in that picture just a minute ago, you can actually add up to 3 seats in there, which is kind of crazy. So, what would it be called? A tandem? Is that
Yeah,
what you?
that's what I was just thinking. I was like, well, is that our next video? And is it just one kayak we talk about?
Yeah. Um, but no, really cool. That like I said, NuCanoe's doing a really good job of just making it easy for people to rig up their own kayaks. From rudders to transducer mounts. This is really nice because they have a huge battery box in the back. You can actually fit two Group 27 batteries in there. So if you really want to overkill with your power, you have that option. But this one's going to be another one of those, big stable boats. This one, I think you could get away with paddling it. It's definitely a big, long boat, but it's definitely going to paddle better than like the XTR or the 128.
So because I'm sure a lot of people watching this have at least looked at the Unlimited. What is the difference between the Unlimited and the Unlimited Max? Is it just some of
So
the features that are built into it?
correct. That's the biggest thing. You're going to get a longer boat, so at 13'6"
Okay.
versus the 12 foot of the Unlimited. So like really cool things. So like they had the Unlimited, they came out with the U10. On the U10, they added a bunch of like just small accessories that really you don't notice at first, but then when you see them, so like back behind the seat in front of the rod holders, there's two little clips there, and those are actually to hold the butts of your rods, so you can actually lay them flat down and they're nice and secure. So that's kind of nice. It's something that's integrated into there. The other thing on these ones is they're doing a larger access panels. So as far as rigging on the Unlimited and the U10, that access panel is so small, and it just kind of makes it tough for rigging. You really got to like snake stuff out, running wires and different stuff like that. Where these ones are a little bit bigger. We're actually going to mount his black box inside the kayak on this one, so it's nice to be able to get that black box into the kayak versus having to run it through the kayak sitting on top or in a different compartment. So just things that the Unlimited and the U10 kind of struggled with, they've kind of just made this better. But this is definitely a big boat. But no, I think this is going to be, honestly, like coming from the pro angler, if I wasn't so set on having a pedal drive, I think this would be a great option to switch to.
Yeah, I think one thing that I like, because I have a U10 and a regular Unlimited, but I will say they're a little bit more like, I don't know, we've kind of talked about it. They're a little bit more bare bones. So
Mhm.
depending on so it's like an open canvas, which I like, but some people are going to like the Tactical Pro and the Wilderness XTR. They're going to like those, or the Bonafide XTR. They're going to like those a little bit more because there's so many more built-in features and, different mounting things that are kind of ready to roll. But I like the openness, and you can have this pretty stripped down, or you can add whatever, but you will have to add just about everything to it because it is kind of an open platform. But being able to go from solo to tandem or trandom, which is a new term that I think we need to coin because it's kind of funny, but I mean, it's pretty cool. So this is like a very universal boat. I will say I've paddled the Unlimited a little bit. You can do it in a pinch. It's Once you get the U10 actually paddles really well.
It
You could
does.
paddle that around. You're getting a little bit more compact, and your weight capacity is not quite as high. It'd probably be okay for a solo angler. I'll throw that up. I'll throw that in the bottom as like an honorable mention. If you're going to be a solo angler, it would probably still work, and you can paddle that. But yeah,
Mhm.
once you get to the Unlimited, I mean, again, to reiterate, we're probably adding a motor to almost all of these, so budget appropriately.
Yeah, and to your point, the UMAX, the Unlimited, the U10, all very big and tall friendly. Like, so, if you're doing lake stuff and you've got big water, big chop, like go with the UMAX. If you're doing river stuff, go with that U10.
Yep.
If so, but again, like you said, like it's so open. And I think that's why we got so many people gravitating towards the NuCanoe because they can make it what they want to make it. It's so friendly for whatever you want to do, whether it's duck hunting,
Yep.
fishing, just outdoors, tandem stuff, trandom, all of that stuff. It's just an open platform. Um, so I think that's really one cool thing, and they're so easy to rig up. Like there's so many different options, and all of that stuff NuCanoe makes. So it's really simple, really clean stuff.
Yeah, so if you're a newer angler too, that's something to consider too. Like you just mentioned, they have, for wiring and stuff. I did a video where I wired up the Minn Kota power drive my own, and I've never wired a motor, and I've never done a lot of drilling, and I did it all in one take in under an hour.
Yeah.
So it is just like if you're new to it and you're a bigger, taller angler, the new accessories they do make it pretty like beginner proof, which is awesome.
And you did that HD kit, is that correct?
Yeah, super slick, super
Yeah.
slick.
Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah, across the board, NuCanoe, I don't think you can go wrong with it. Let's see what else we got here. Native TitanX. They make that in a 12-foot and a 10-foot. Both of those are huge, not huge. They're big, stable platforms. They're definitely not as big as the the 128 or the XTR or anything like that. But they're a great platform for a big guy. Again, 360 seat, millennial seat. Now this is where you may lean to because this is actually will have a pedal drive.
Yep.
So if you are set on having that pedal drive as your propulsion, this is definitely the route to go. But definitely one of those big stable platforms that just about anybody can get into.
This is one that I was just gonna say too. Like, it's pretty first and probably the only one. Besides, we'll go back at the episode. If you looked at the Hobie Pro Angler, those obviously have the 360 and the cool fin drives. But as far as what we're talking about today, we'll get into another honorable mention with the PDL Pro. But unique that this one you might not have to spend on a motor because it does come with a pedal drive. So a lot of the ones we do talk about, the Big Rig, I guess, is another one that has a pedal drive. So that is a nice feature to not have to jump right into a motor right away.
Yeah, and of course, like I said, they make this in a 10 and a 12 footer, so you definitely have that options of what you want to carry, or how big you want to go. Again, I mean, 500-pound capacity on the 12-foot, great for big water. Definitely easy to rig up. They have a bunch of access panels, different stuff like that. A lot of stuff integrated into that front hatch for storing a battery, for running your transducer, different stuff like that. Of course, they also just came out with their new boat, which is the Titan or the Native Hammer with the new X drive. I haven't been in that one yet. It definitely looks like a good boat. To me, it's more of a hybrid between their Slayer and their Titan X, a little bit more streamlined. So I think that one would work as well. But if you're looking for something big, wide, stable, the Titan X's are definitely one of those ones to look at. But yeah, huge advantage of being able to just go pedal drive versus going motor all in. A lot of states you have to register a kayak with a motor on it, and that's something you could avoid going straight pedal drive versus some of these other platforms that we've already mentioned.
What do you know about the pedal drive for them? Because I don't have much experience with that. It's like one of the few that I haven't got to try yet.
Solid drive, honestly. Like I here at the store, I haven't had. I think we've had one warranty issue, and it was one of the gears ended up getting stripped in it. But the really cool thing is, like, I hit up Native and I'm like, hey, we've got this, and Brian works over there, and he's awesome. He is so good at his job. So big shout out to him with Native. But I called him up, said, hey, I've got this going on. And he's like, just here's a shipping label, send it to us. We'll take it apart. He said, hey, we replaced this, this, and this. Should be good to go. Here's your drive back. And I mean, within a week or two. So of course, this is probably their off season, probably, so it's probably not as busy. But I was pretty impressed that we got it out to them. I think the X drive is really cool on the new Hammer. The X drive will actually fold down a little bit more, make it a little more streamlined, where you can kind of get it out of the way. But again, this drive is very similar to like the Old Town drive. Super simple, nothing like crazy or heavy or robust about it. But just a great drive, solid drive. So yeah, I think the drive's good. I think it's a good option. Something to mention on these, I really like their rudder systems on the Natives. So their rudder will actually flip down or flip up. Even when it's in the up position, you can still turn. So it's kind of nice because if you are in some shallow water where you're still floating, that rudder will kick up underneath it and still be low enough that you could steer it. But it's not going to be dragging on everything. And again, it's spring loaded as well. So if you do hit something, it's going to kick up and kick back down.
That's a pretty nice feature for any of the pedal drives. If you can find one that has like the kick up stuff or fin drives or rudders that kick up automatically.
Yeah.
Because it's not a matter of like if you hit something, it's when you hit something.
Yeah.
So
And how fast you're going
and how fast you're going
square
and
you are.
yeah. And hopefully that you're not standing.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, again, Native, they make some great platforms, good quality, good fit and finish. Of course, Bonafide and Native are owned by Big Adventures, and they create all those boats. And then actually, NuCanoe is actually produced by Big Adventures as well for them. So it's pretty cool seeing all those three. So all three of those same fit and finish quality, all coming out of the same factory. So it's good stuff there. Another new one for this year, which I don't like. It doesn't speak to me. I'm not gonna lie. It's not my forte, but I can totally understand. But that's the new Crescent Crescraft. Um, these are more like a skiff kind of deal. They make them in two different options. So they make it as a power kayak, and then they also make it as a micro skiff. So the difference in those two, one's going to be the seat. On the power kayak, it's going to come with that millennial seat that's going to be have a 360 base. Excuse me, 360 base that you can swivel that around. It's also going to come set up to mount like a Garmin Force Current, a NK 300 180, a Bixby on the back. So that mounting system is a little bit different. When you jump over to the micro skiff, you're actually going to get a bench seat, a wooden teak bench seat versus the millennial seat. That one's just going to be flat. So, but the upside is on that motor mount, you can actually fit up to, I think it's like a 7 horsepower. It's like 6 or 7 horsepower. Yeah, achieving 19 miles per hour with 6 horsepower motor on the micro skiff, where the power skiff is rated for a 3 horsepower motor. So they've beefed up that micro skiff to actually take a bigger motor, so you can actually do that. And this is definitely going to be your more like inland guys, offshore stuff, like super shallow platforms. Or super shallow areas that you guys want to get in there. This will be nice because you'll be able to stand up. You'll have a big open platform, and be able to lay that out however you want as well. But yeah, I have not been in this, but I am looking forward to getting this sucker on the water.
This kind of almost reminds me of all the comments we usually get. Just be like, oh, just buy a boat. And now, like, it's kind of in between, right? Like, is this pretty similar to what like a John boat would be, right?
Yeah, I would say so that too. Like very, streamlined, open, kind of,
Yep.
do what you want to it. Now it's not gonna be to me, it's not gonna be as big as like the XTR, the 128. It's gonna be fairly close. But super, super cool platform. Again, you've got a 500-pound capacity. It's one of their newer boats. So I guess it all depends on, where you're fishing at and all that.
It's almost kind of like a Bonafide XTR hybrid with a NuCanoe Unlimited MAX. It's kind of in that in between
Yep.
boat style, but a kayak, but open platform. So yeah, if you're someone who enjoys having a bunch of space, this would be a good fit.
It would be. You can add their standing bar to it. You can add a cooler to it. So if you want to run it as tandem, you could run a cooler on there. So definitely a different style than I'm used to, but I can totally understand why these guys are doing as far as getting really shallow, maybe some redfish in, maybe being able to stand up on that teak board and fly fish, but pretty cool platform. What else do we got?
I think the last one we were going to talk about, I think, at least for new ones, was the PDL Pros as kind of an
Yeah,
honorable mention.
yeah. So the Old Town 120 PDL Pro, of course, they released that boat recently. To me, I don't know. Like I wish the weight capacity was better on it. It's not as good as I'd hoped. I think it's pushing like 425 usable weight. You got that pulled up here.
Yep.
420 usable weight. So to me, if you're a big and tall guy and you're gonna go super light, minimalist, you're not gonna put a bunch of stuff on it. I think this is a great option. They definitely added a ton of track on the front and the rear, so it makes it super easy to add accessories. Of course, Old Town pedal drive, it is great. They're practically indestructible. They do a 5-year warranty on their drive, which is really cool, and a lifetime warranty on their hull.
One of the smoothest pedaling ones on the market. One of the
For
oldest,
sure.
tried and true. Like I would say that would be the draw, right? It's the brand recognition. It's the like just years and years and years of experience to hone in like their hulls and their pedal drives is the big advantage with Old Town.
Absolutely. So yeah, the other thing they've added to this one is the internal rod storage. You've got 2 rod tubes, so you can actually on each side, so you can actually hold 4 rods laying down. So again, like if you're gonna do this one and you're a big and tall guy, like just keep in mind like there's not a ton of weight capacity there. It's not as bad as some of these other ones. Of course, you have an elevated seat, adjust forward and backwards based on your leg length. But this would be a great option too. They did upgrade the front hatch to make that larger, so you actually can fit more in there. But I know, like to me, like they also integrated the bow mount on there. I think you got to really, measure that stuff out, weigh that stuff out as far as like which bow mount you're using, which battery, work on displacing that weight really good. Because again, you can get to that 425, 420 pretty quick. But no, a great platform. They've upgraded a lot of things that guys were asking for from the Sportsman 120 and just made this one better. But definitely cool platform, great fit and finish, tried and true Old Town brand.
All right. So I promised it earlier. I think that was all the ones we were talking about going through for the new ones. So if you need to jump back and watch them again, sorry, I got distracted with my dog freaking out and my doorbell rang a bunch. So I'm gonna have to go back. Like I have to go back and watch this episode to see how zoned out I looked. Then I was getting a phone call from another number and I thought it was like my kids at school. So sorry, JT unraveled in this episode.
Oh,
but let's right. I'm a professional, I swear. We can jump back. The thing I jumped even in the beginning of this episode was talking about what we should be looking for. So let's go over quick. We talked about the kayaks in specifically, but like one of the some of the stuff we should have gone over first is like things like cockpit space for leg room if you're a taller angler.
So yeah, you definitely, that you want to keep that mindful. Of course, with the pedal drives, you're a little bit going to be more limited in that cockpit space, but that's the advantage of having pedal drives, being able to propel that. But a lot of these are going to have so much, cockpit space or being able to adjust it. So like the Tactical 120 Pro, that's the one that you're not going to have any adjustment. It's going to be is what it is as far as that cockpit area. But like the XTR, the UMAX, both of those, you can adjust that seat as far forward or backwards as you need. Of course, you want to kind of displace that weight and kind of, it's going to perform better doing that. But there's definitely options there. I think the only drawback is like going to be a pedal drive, but that may be an advantage for you because you don't have to do motor and other stuff as well. Speaking to that, how the seat sits up, the nice part about a lot of these seats, they're going to be elevated. They're going to be higher up off the deck. So if you're wanting to stand up and fish, that's something to definitely look at. A lot of these companies are trying to do the 360 seats, which is great, makes it easy to get in and out, gives you the adjustability of turning side to side. So yeah, definitely look at, what you fit. Now, I guess, again, we're going to talk about this like every time. I recommend like finding a local dealer, finding someone that maybe has this kayak, go touch, feel it, know what you're getting into before you just pull the trigger on it. And that's what we preach all the time. We get people that call in and I'm like, hey, do you have a local dealer? Like we'll take your business and we'll take care of you. But going and seeing it and getting it, just sitting in it in a store, like whether it's a demo or not, like.
Yeah. And like with that elevated seat and it's swiveling too, if you're a bigger or taller angler, being able to swivel that seat to the side and get into it and get in and out of it too is another thing if you're able to get to a store. Yeah. You might find out that I can't even get in this or I can't stand. I can't. So then the other thing would be like a wide haul. We talk about that. Most of these kayaks we talked about were pushing the upper 30s or low 40s. So they're all pretty close to each other, but a wider haul might provide you a little more stability for standing.
Yeah, that width of the hole is definitely going to change your stability. Anything narrower and slimmer is definitely going to paddle better. But your width, that's where your stability, correlates on there. And that also correlates to the weight capacity. So definitely a wider boat, longer boat, you're probably going to have more weight capacity. But that's something definitely that I think anglers, kayakers, people in general overlook is that actually weight capacity. I mean, I've never taken the time to take everything out of my kayak and weigh it. And I would probably be shocked to it. And then weighing myself as well, being like, oh, wow, I've probably got a lot more in here than I realize. But then again, that's why I think they're making some of these boats bigger, more weight capacity because they want to allow people to be able to rig it however they want.
Especially if you're adding something like that Minn Kota power driver Tarova. When I went to like lift that out of the box, I was blown away by how like actual heavy it is. I mean, I don't know if that's 50 pounds here. I can look it up. But one thing when you're looking at weight capacities is some kayaks are really good about giving you the usable capacity. So that's already taking into account the weight of the boat itself and the seat. If it doesn't list that, you might have to do some of the math on your own too, where I don't know if it's true, but I typically will subtract the, if they don't list the usable capacity, subtract the weight of the boat from its what it's listed its capacity at. So now if you're 500 pounds and the kayak weighs 100, your usable capacity is probably somewhere around 400. So that's a tricky way that the numbers can be a little inflated sometimes.
Yeah, definitely something to look at, and I'm probably guilty of it. I know a lot of the guys that are doing tournaments are probably guilty of taking too much stuff. Can't imagine what my tackle, alone weighs between jigs and chatterbaits and all this stuff, and that stuff adds up quick.
And when you push it too, you might be able to exceed the weight capacity and still float. But yeah, man, if you take like any sort of current, you are going to be so quick to roll your kayak and lose all that stuff too. So where it just becomes dangerous when you push that weight capacity to
exactly
or
where I was
past
going
it.
to.
Yep.
Yeah, that safety is the biggest thing, so. But no, yeah, that Tarova is 40 pounds. So yeah, I mean that to me that it's not gonna be a light motor. Now, of course, that's dry like land weight. Like, of course, that weight's gonna change a little bit, when it's in the water, of course. But it's still you're gonna have, if it's out of the water, you got 40 pounds up there. So
yeah, and
definitely think about
100 amp hour battery that weighs.
Yeah,
And if it's
30 pounds,
you're 30 pounds. Yeah. So it all adds up real quick. So you got to be mindful of all that stuff.
For sure. No, and I dig it. Like, I like it. I think there's a lot more people getting into the sport, no matter who they are. So this is a good, talking about, these bigger boats, what to expect. But no, I'm excited about these people, everyone getting into this sport, big, tall, and all.
Yeah. And the options are just every year, new options are coming for every single type of angler. So yeah, if you're a big and tall angler, you are not left out. And even from the last time we did this episode, there's even better options out there, or just more options. I shouldn't say better. So there's starting to be more options for every type of angler and every type of way you fish too. I just recently wrote a blog. I talked about how do you match a kayak to the type of fishing you want to do. So I'll even link to that too. There's just so much to think about, but there is a kayak for you. So if you've got any questions, go ahead and drop them in the comments. We love hearing the feedback. I will work directly with you too. I'll even put my email in there down below. Jonathan, you got the storefront number that people can call because you handle the builds. So you're in this stuff every day.
Yeah. 573-873-2772. But yeah, even if in these comments you say, hey, I'm looking for a kayak at this price point, this is what I want to do, this is kind of what I need. It's fun to go through that stuff and kind of fit, that kayak to that person. Now, even doing that, you may have 3 to 4 different options within, your criteria. So, you really got to take the time to go through there. But yeah, to ask, whatever way, call us here at the store. Always happy to help people out.
Yep. All right. Like and subscribe. Forgot to say
Thank you, buddy. Yes.
All right. Have a good week, man.
See ya.